Okay, so today what we're going to do is give us an introduction in graphing polynomials, fellows like this, fellows like this. Now we talked before, if you had something like this, we know we're going to get three answers. Well, in this case, what we're talking about is three places where we could be crossing that x-axis, or in this case, four places we could be crossing that x-axis. So there's a lot of bouncing and going around, and that's what we want to talk about today. All right, so first of all, what you need to know is the end behaviors. So if you have a quadratic, you've got these crazy parabolas here. Now these parabolas always had either two arms up like this, or if it was negative, it always had two arms down like this. Now this is the fancy way that we write two arms up and two arms down. We'll say that as x approaches negative infinity, that means that we're on the left side. Then y approaches positive infinity, that means we're going up. And then also, if as x approaches positive infinity, that means we're on the right side. Y approaches positive infinity, that means up. So this is what that says: left up, right up, left arm up, right arm up. But if the degrees are negative, then we'll have two arms down. So this one says that on the left side, as x approaches negative infinity, so that's on the left, y approaches negative infinity. That means we're going down. As x approaches positive infinity, that means on the right, y approaches negative infinity. That means we're going down. So this happens not just on parabolas, but any function that we have an even degree on. So anything that's got an x squared or an x to the fourth or an x to the sixth will have either two arms up or two arms down. If he's positive, something like a 3x squared, that would be two arms up. But if he's negative, like maybe a negative 7 or 6 or something, that means we'll have two arms down. But you don't always have just even degree fellows. You can have odd degree fellows. So this one, what they're talking about is that if we have an odd degree, and this one would be everybody who's, x to the third, well, even x to the first power, but those are straight lines. They do this generally, or x to the third, or x to the fifth. Anybody like that, we're going to have this type of behavior. They're going to have one arm down and one arm up. Now, if it's a positive, the one on the left, so as x approaches negative infinity, then the arm for y is going down. Y approaches negative infinity. As x approaches positive infinity, that means on the right-hand side, y approaches positive infinity, which means we're going up. So if it's an odd degree, even if it's a straight line and it's positive, then the left side is going down and the right side is going up every time. However, if we have an odd degree and we've got some negative going on, then what we'll have is the left arm going up and the right arm going down like this. And so we write it fancily like this. As x approaches, this is an arrow, by the way. Maybe I should have written it like that. As x approaches negative infinity, that's to the left, y approaches positive infinity. That means we're up. As x approaches positive infinity, that's on the right, y approaches negative infinity. That's down. So these are the fancy ways we're going to be writing those end behaviors. One up, one down, one left, one right. Okay. The other thing I want you to know is that there's some wording that we're going to use today. One is called a bounce and one is called a cross. We also have wiggle. Okay, wiggle and cross for us today are going to be exactly the same. But what a cross looks like is just that we're going to go through the axis, and a bounce means we're going to pop on up. Okay, a wiggle means we're going through, but kind of in a way like this. All right, so here's an example of a cross. If I have something like this, x minus 1, and if it's like to the first power, what that means is I'm going to cross the x-axis when x is a positive 1, okay? And if it's just to the first power, we're just going to cross on through. It means we're going to come up, cross on through, okay? Sometimes, like I said, we'll wiggle, meaning we'll kind of do this, but we are going to go on through. A bounce, let's use this, x minus 1 again. That means that we're going to cross the x-axis at 1, but a bounce happens if it's even. So we'll come, we're going to touch that space and we're going to bounce back off. Okay, so if the group we're talking about is odd, we'll cross through, and if it's even, we'll bounce. Here's how we are going to address that today. So I'm giving you homework that looks like this. We're going to do a couple of these problems together. That's how that will work. What I want you to look for first is we're going to go a little backwards and we're going to try and find the degree of this polynomial. Now this is not just going to be x squared and it's not going to be y squared, but we do have an x squared. So we have 2 degrees here. And this group is 1. So we've got 2 and 1. That means our degree is 3 over here. Then we want to talk about that leading coefficient sign. In other words, I want to know what's going on right here. Is that guy positive or negative? Well, in this case, it's positive. So our leading coefficient, who is 2x, or just 2, would be a positive guy. So that's important. Well, then that tells us some things. I'm going to go back to this paper back here. Let's see. It's an odd degree, and it's positive. So if it's an odd degree, and he's positive, then we're going to have one arm down and one arm up. The left arm will be down and the right arm will be up. So this is how we write that on our homework today, that our left end behavior, remember left hand will be down. So it looks like this. As x approaches negative infinity, that means on the left, y approaches negative infinity, that means down. And the right end behavior, who's going up, says that as x approaches positive infinity, that's on the right, that y approaches positive infinity. That will be up. So we're going to be working with that. Then I've got the places that we're going to cross. So one of the places, let's see, I need a different color. Oh well, we'll go with pink. Okay. One of the places comes from here, that x squared part. See, when x squared equals 0, what we do to fix that is we'll take the square root and x will be 0. So one of the places we'll cross is at x equals 0. So this is, we're going to put, I'm just going to put 2x squared. That's where we find that particular fellow. With the squared, what that means is that our multiplicity, in other words, that 0 will happen twice. We're going to bounce here. Okay, so at 0, I'm going to mark him with gray. We're going to come and we're going to bounce off, either coming up and going that way or going down and dropping. And then the other part that we have here, we have an x minus 1. If I set that equal to 0, then we're going to cross the x-axis at a positive 1 So that's this group right here. So I'm going to put that this was the x minus 1 group. And this happens exactly one time. So if it happens once, the multiplicity is once, that means we're going to cross. So I need to mark the 1. So this is how we're going to sketch. Now, sketch means not exact. It's just kind of giving us a general idea. Our left hand is down, so we're going this direction on the left side. On the right side, we're going up that direction. And what we're going to do then is connect the dots. We're going to go from here, we're going to go connect up to 0. Now 0 is where we bounce. So we bounce off, but somehow I have to capture this. So I'm going to make a turn, I capture, and I'm going off into the upright position. This, we didn't use it all today, so we'll just cross that part off right there. Boop. At least for that problem. So number 2, here's my equation, y equals -6, parentheses, x plus 1 to the third. So now we're going to walk through all of the parts. Again, I like to start off at the end. I want to know the degree. So x happens once. This group happens 3 times. 1 times 3, or 1 and 3 get me 4. So my degree is 4. My leading coefficient right here is a -6, -6x. That's a negative. That means we're going down. Okay. Excuse me. So that means if I have an even group and negative, so let me pull that guy to refresh our memory. If I'm even but negative, that means I've got 2 arms down. That means this is my end behavior group. Okay, so left arm is going down, right arm is going down. This is how we write that. As x approaches negative infinity, that means on the left, y approaches negative infinity. That means we're going down. And as x approaches positive infinity, that means the right, y is going negative infinity. That means we're going down. All right, so we can actually mark that over here. So on the left, we're going down, boop, boop, but on the right, we're going up, or going down as well. I read the wrong line. There we go, down, 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 down. Mark that up. And then we start pulling what we know about this particular fellow, like this -6x. If I set that equal to 0, that's when x equals 0. So I get this part from the -6x. This happens exactly once, right there, just once. And so I'm going to end up crossing through here. And then you'll see over this way, that x plus 1, if I set that equal to 0, would be x equals -1. So that's this one. I get this from the x plus 1 to the third power. Okay. This happens multiplicity of 3, meaning it happens 3 times. If that's true and he's odd, we'll cross through here. Okay. This time we don't use any of this, so we can cross those out. That's not happening. And this is what that would look like. So I know I'm going to cross here at -1, and I'm going to cross here at 0. So I'm going to start with my arrow. I was pointing down. I'm going to cross -1. Somehow I've got to cross 0, so I'm going to make a turn, and then we'll just keep going down. That gives me an idea of what should be happening. Okay. And officially that would be a wiggle, meaning he crosses but kind of with a little turn, with a little swivel, but that's where we'll be. All right, I want to work backwards a bit right here, number 16. See, they don't give us much information and we have to come up with things on our own. Here's an idea. This tells us the multiplicity. So this happens 5 times, this happens 4 times. That means my degree is 9. Okay. They don't say anything about being upside down. So we can imagine that this would be a positive group right here. Now, if he's positive and odd, that means that our left hand behavior is going to be down, and our right hand will be up like this. So that means as x approaches negative infinity, that's on the left, y, approaches negative infinity. That means down. So we're like, breathe down. And on this side, as x approaches positive infinity, that's on the right, y, goodness gracious, approaches positive infinity. That means we're going up. So that's what we're doing. Graph-wise then, we're going to go through -1 right here, and we're going to call that a wiggle. Anything more than just 1 is going to be a wiggle. So we're kind of going, through there. And then we're going to bounce at 0. So we're coming, we have to make a little turn, bounce, and then we're off into the wilderness this way. That's our graph. So an equation that might be would look like something like this. You could have x to the 5th power, and then that group, to the 4th power, excuse me, x to the 4th power, and then that group x plus 1, because that's what's going to get me here. Remember, this is x plus 1. That's going to happen 5 times. So that's how we can work backwards. So the rest of your homework is going to be practicing up and down arms, the degrees, and just giving us an idea of what it might look like. All right.